Hi guys, my name is Shutapa and today we are going to be studying a chapter from Pol Science called Politics of Planned Development. ये हमारा थर्ड चैप्टर है और ये चैप्टर स्टार्ट होता है एक केस स्टडी से. The first thing that we're going to be looking at in this chapter is basically a case study of a place in Orissa which provides us further grounds of discussion about let's say development, जो as the name suggests. So we'll first look at the case study, we'll discuss about it and we'll see how this case study is important for us in understanding very broad concepts in our country which are related to growth and development and ideas of justice, social and economic justice. So the first thing that we need to do is look at this case study for now. It's basically of Orissa. So we have Bhubaneswar, Orissa as the location of where the case study begins. What happens is Orissa is a place which has a lot of untapped iron ore reserves. मतलब उड़ीसा में काफ़ी ऐसी जगह है in the entire state, ऐसी काफ़ी सारी जगहें हैं जहाँ पे आयरन ओर रिजर्व्स मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा भर भर के है जहाँ से हम आयरन ओर एक्सट्रैक्ट कर सकते हैं और वहाँ से वो बिकॉज इट हेल्प्स इन क्रिएटिंग, इट हेल्प्स इन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग स्टील, राइट. So that is what we have in abundance in the state of Orissa, and which is a very it's like people who are engaged in businesses, people who want to manufacture steel, people who are engaged in this particular industry, उनके लिए ये बहुत बड़ा opportunity है because then if they get access to that iron ore, they are able to extract that and they are able to use it. So it's like they get access to their basic raw material. So that is why this is the presence of untapped iron ore reserves in Orissa is a thing of much economic importance, right? But ये जो reserves हैं, these are basically present in predominantly tribal areas. Because in those areas there's जो ट्राइबल कम्युनिटी के लोग होते हैं, जो आदिवासी होते हैं, उनका घर है ऐसे एरियाज में, वो वहाँ पे रहते हैं. सो इट्स गोइंग टू बी अ ह्यूज thing if somebody wanted to extract that this raw material, if anybody wanted to extract this iron ore, क्योंकि वहाँ पे लोगों का घर है तो वहाँ पे अगर किसी भी तरह का कोई माइनिंग एक्टिविटी चलेगा तो लोगों को वहाँ से हटाना पड़ेगा because otherwise it cannot be extracted, it cannot be mined. तो माइनिंग के लिए लोगों को वहाँ से हटाना पड़ेगा. पीपल विल बिकॉज लोग जो वहाँ पे रहते हैं वो उनका घर है वहाँ पे, वो वहीं पे किसी तरह का कोई काम करते हैं तो they lose access to their homes and they lose access to their to their source of earning, to whatever livelihood they pursue. So that is why this is a very let's say controversial thing to replace people from their own houses and try to extract minerals from where people would have been living otherwise. So that is what we're going to be studying now. जिस setting में हम ये पढ़ रहे हैं, जिस background में हम ये पढ़ रहे हैं, what's happening is there is a very large global demand for steel. So the demand for steel is on the rise. मतलब internationally स्टील की बहुत ज़्यादा डिमांड है, नेशनली इंटरनेशनली वॉट एवर रिस्पेक्ट स्टील की बहुत ज़्यादा डिमांड है. वी नीड स्टील फॉर अ वैरायटी ऑफ पर्पसेस. तो अगर कहीं पे भी स्टील मैन्युफैक्चर करने के लिए उसका रॉ मटेरियल मिल रहा है, सो दैट थिंग इज ऑफ utmost importance, right? So since we have such a huge demand for steel and since we are getting raw materials at a particular place, we're getting abundance of raw materials that is necessary for manufacturing steel at this particular place in the state of Orissa, which is in India. So people are attracted to that place, people from across the country or even outside the country, क्योंकि इंटरनेशनली जो लोग जो MNCs का कॉन्सेप्ट है, जो मल्टीनेशनल कॉर्पोरेशंस है, वो बाहर के देशों में अपनी फैक्ट्री सेटअप करते हैं so that they are able to use the raw materials or the manpower or whatever for their own gains, or they are able to access those foreign markets. So that is why there's if we find something really some very valuable mineral at a particular place, that not only attracts people from across the country, forget the state, even across the country, but even from outside the country. So that is why this thing becomes utmost important, right? So what happens is the government of India signs a memorandum of understanding between with steel makers who are both domestic and international. मतलब एक memorandum of understanding होता है. There's, okay, let's write that down. There's a thing called memorandum of understanding, which allows these people, these steel makers, these people of importance, these people to extract minerals through mining from these areas. तो ये memorandum of understanding जो होती है, this gives people like these, people, the steel makers, people who manufacture steel, this gives people like these the right or the access to these reserves for mining purposes and for extracting that particular mineral. तो ये memorandum of understanding जो है, this the government signed with very many steel makers, because what happens is, अगर हम किसी को ये right दे रहे हैं that this person is because we're giving some person some authority to extract minerals and carry out their manufacturing activities, तो ये इंसान क्या करेगा? This person will invest in that particular sector, even if they are from within the country, or even if they are from outside the country. They will invest money in this project, in the project of manufacturing steel, and they'll hire people for extracting these raw materials, and then they'll hire a particular sort of labor for processing of the raw materials, और इस तरीके से काफ़ी सारा investment होगा उस particular sector में, because of which people are going to get a lot of money in their own hands, because they are using what? They are using human labor, they are using the human capital to carry out with these procedures. So इससे क्या होता है? इससे investment होता है, which the government is always trying to encourage. So when investment happens, people have more money in their hands, and investment always leads to, because investment जब हो रही है, so the money that is coming into the market, that basically helps in increasing people's income, because वो investment जब हो रही है तो पैसा तो वो लोगों में ही बढ़ जा रहा है ना, because people are getting salaries, people are getting money to do mining activities, people are getting money to help with the processing, people are doing maybe more specialized jobs in this particular factory. तो लोगों के हाथ में आ रही है वो पैसा, whatever money has been put into investment, so that always helps to increase people's income. So that is why the government always tries to encourage investment within the economy. तो गवर्नमेंट ने ऐसा मेमोरेंडम ऑफ अंडरस्टैंडिंग साइन कर रखा था, एंड नाउ वी गोइंग टू बी लुकिंग एट अ पर्टिकुलर कंपनी विच इज द पॉस्को इंडिया स्टील प्लांट. So this particular steel plant, it actually faced a lot of criticism, because ये एक particular case है of a steel plant which wants to manufacture steel and which has to extract its raw materials from these particular reserves which are in Orissa. तो एक डिस्ट्रिक्ट है हमारे पास, द जगत सिंहपुर डिस्ट्रिक्ट. दिस पर्टिकुलर प्लेस, यहाँ पे इट्स बेसिकली अ कोरियन कंपनी. पॉस्को इज अ कोरियन कंपनी विच हैज अ कोलैबोरेशन विद इंडिया. सो दिस स्टील प्लांट इज ऑपरेटिंग इन इंडिया. सो इनको चाहिए था, इनको स्टील मैन्युफैक्चर करना था, और इनको चाहिए था आयरन ओर इन रिजर्व से जो उड़ीसा में लोकेटेड है. तो अब उसके लिए लाइक वी डिस्कस्ड अर्लियर, उसके लिए अब वहाँ पे लोग रह रहे हैं जहाँ पे वो रिजर्व्स है, वहाँ पे ट्राइबल एरिया सेटअप है, वहाँ पे आदिवासीज रहते हैं. तो अब उन लोगों को हटाना पड़ेगा, पहले उन लोगों को उन लोगों को डिस्प्लेस करना पड़ेगा, एंड देन it is normally said that those people are going to get some sort of accommodation facilities, they are going to get rehabilitation, and they are going to get some sort of source of earning, they are going to get jobs in some way. But it normally does not happen. उन लोगों को rehabilitate तो किया जाता है, उन लोगों को कहीं और कहीं और रिप्लेस कर दिया जाता है, उन्हें कहीं और रहने की जगह दी जाती है, but it doesn't really help with the livelihood, with the source of earning, or even with the attachments that they had with their previous homes. So लोगों को पहले तो उस जगह से हटाना पड़ेगा so that mining चल सके वहाँ पे, because mining cannot happen at an area where people are living. It cannot happen in residential complexes. So that is why, because there is such a huge cost associated with these kinds of activities, that is why there's a lot of criticism. There's a lot of criticism when this entire project is starting to operate. तो इस जगह के लोग, जगत सिंहपुर डिस्ट्रिक्ट के लोग बहुत ज़्यादा प्रोटेस्ट करने लगे अगेंस्ट द पोस्को इंडिया स्टील प्लांट, और पीपल, देयर वर अराउंड हंड्रेड्स ऑफ पीपल फ्रॉम वेरियस विलेजेस, राइट, फ्रॉम वेरियस विलेजेस विद इन दिस डिस्ट्रिक्ट, जो कि ये जो कोरियन कंपनी है, इस कंपनी के ऑफिस के बाहर बहुत सारे डेमोन्स्ट्रेशंस और प्रोटेस्ट करने लगे. उनको अंदर तो जाने नहीं दिया पुलिस ने, but they remained outside and they continued their protest. So this is this particular example of a protest activity that happened because of these development projects. जो projects होती है development के नाम पे, जो projects होती हैं which leads to development in some way, it does, but it harms a certain it harms a certain section of people who are not able to get any of that benefit from the development that's happening. So there are basically like 3 sections of people involved in this entire thing, and let's look at the major concerns of these sections of people. First of all, these are the common people who are living in that area, where the development project is going to happen. So इनका प्राइम कंसर्न है डिस्प्लेसमेंट, विच मीन्स लॉस ऑफ होम एंड लाइवलीहुड, क्योंकि इन्हें डिस्प्लेस कर दिया जाएगा. इन्हें उस डेवलपमेंट का जो हो रहा है, इनके लिए दीज पीपल आर हैविंग टू मेक अ काइंड ऑफ sacrifice, right? It's a sacrifice for them, like, because they if they want to help in the development process of the country, it's a sacrifice for them, but they are not getting anything in return. They are not able to enjoy the benefits of the development that's happening. So it's a sacrifice for them without any commensurate gains or without any commensurate benefits for the development for which they are having to make a sacrifice. So their prime concern is that they are losing their life and their livelihood, their source of income, and without getting anything in return. Then there's environmentalists who who say that mining and industry would pollute the environment. तो जो environmentalists हैं, people who are concerned about the environment, वो लोग ये कहते हैं कि उनका प्राइम कंसर्न ये है कि माइनिंग और इंडस्ट्री से, because mining is a procedure which creates a lot of air pollution, which disrupts the environmental balance. It actually does a lot of harm to the environment. And even industry में जो procedures carry out होते हैं, whatever the smoke that comes out of each factory, or the waste that they dispose, the industrial waste that they dispose maybe in water or maybe at dump sites, that is very harmful for the environment. So the environmentalists think that mining and industry would pollute the environment, and that is their prime concern. The concern of the government, on the other hand, is setting an example for investment, because the government wants to encourage investment. That's all that it wants to do. And even if it has to pay a certain price in terms of the people who are living there, in terms of the displacement or the rehabilitation that is going to happen. So that is not one of the more important concerns of the government. The government wants to encourage investment, and the government thinks कि अगर ये ऑपरेशन, ये प्रोजेक्ट्स नहीं सक्सेसफुल हो पाए, अगर इन आयरन ओर रिजर्व्स का हम यूज करके फैक्ट्री सेटअप नहीं कर पाए, एंड इफ वी आर नॉट एबल टू make use of this entire scenario, then that thing will discourage investments in our country. It will discourage investments domestically and internationally. People from abroad will not want to invest in our in our iron ore reserves, or in the raw materials that we have in our country. So the government doesn't want that. The government wants to set an example for investment, and it does not want to discourage investments. right? So this entire thing that we studied so far, ये जो एक particular example लेके हमने पढ़ा कि एक remote area में, मतलब tribal areas में iron ore reserves मिल रही है, जिसको देख के इतने सारे लोग attract हो रहे हैं क्योंकि उसका कितना ज़्यादा फ़ायदा उठाया जा सकता है, उसको extract करके steel making का जो procedure है, manufacturing steel जो होती है, that thing can be done, and that is very profitable. That's a very profitable industry, and that will generate a lot of money. And even the entire investment procedure, the procedure of setting up a factory and the process of mining which helps to extract these things generate a lot of money among the people. These things actually it adds to people's earnings, right? But it does a lot of harm to another section of people who are having to get displaced from that particular area. और फिर ये environment को भी बहुत ज़्यादा harm कर रही है because it's leading to air pollution and water pollution and what not. So ये एक example है which says that whatever ideas of development or whatever ideas of profit making we have, it's not always correct. It's like it's not always good in every way. There is some mistake in that entire idea. There's somebody who's being left behind. There's somebody who's not able to get any benefit from it, but who's actually suffering because of it. This example was to give us that broader idea about what development means, and which we are also going to study further, but it's just a introductory example. Now let's look at what we have as political contestations, which kind of draws conclusions from this entire example that we studied so far. The first thing is weighing interests of one social group against another. जैसे कि इस example में भी हमने देखा, if we want to, if this is a social group and this is a social group and this is a social group, if we, or maybe the investors are a social group, if we want to put their interests first, it contradicts the interest. If we want to say that okay, no, we want investment and we want to put in the businessmen, we want to put the businessmen's interest first, then it harms the people who are getting displaced, and it harms the environment. So it actually affects it actually puts behind the interests of environmentalists if we're putting forward the interests of businessmen. On the other hand, if we put forward the interests of the common people who are living there, then investment gets discouraged, and it's actually harming the interests of the investors or even the government for that matter. So we have to basically prioritize interests. We have to understand which of them is more important, whose interests are more important, and why a particular group's interest should be given more priority than the other groups. So that's what we have as weighing interests of one social group against another. Then the present and future generation. The conflict between present and future generation arises because whatever resources and minerals we have in today's date, so those things are exhaustible and those things are not going to remain forever. So if we keep on continuously exhausting these reserves and these resources, तो future generations के लिए बचेंगे नहीं. We will use up everything in today's generation, और जो हमारे फ्यूचर जनरेशन्स होंगे उन्हें बाहर की कंट्रीज में ऐसे इन्वेस्टमेंट करना पड़ेगा so that they are able to use their raw materials, their resources, because in our country there will be none of it left. And even internationally in other countries, resources are present to a fixed limit, and it takes, because that's what we know about resources, it takes millions of years to rebuild, and you cannot expect everything to grow back quickly. So we have to use all these in a very sustainable manner. This word sustainable is very important, and we have studied this in many of our classes, in many chapters, and in many subjects. So we need to be able to use resources in a very sustainable manner so that it lasts so that it is able to help the present generation, and it is able to stay for the future generations, also without harming the environment. So that's present and future generations. The next thing is people's participation. Now in डिसीजन मेकिंग्स ऑफ दिस लेवल, जहाँ पे डिसीजन मेकिंग का बात आता है, जहाँ पे ये क्वेश्चन आता है कि ये डिसीजन किसको लेना चाहिए, कि वो कि ये इन्वेस्टमेंट होना चाहिए या नहीं होना चाहिए, ये आयरन और रिजर्व्स का एक्सट्रैक्शन करने के लिए माइनिंग होना चाहिए कि नहीं होना चाहिए. In these decision making procedures, the government should be the only one that makes these decisions, because government can take a lot of selfish decisions based on its own interests. So लोगों को involve करना चाहिए इन चीज़ों में. The common people who are living there, their views and their opinions should also be taken. So people should be made, common people should be made a part of the decision making process that actually affects the lives and interests of so many people. So that's people's participation. And then comes advice from experts, economists and environmentalists. So exactly what we talked about decision making. तो यहाँ पे लोगों को, जिन लोगों को इस चीज़ से अफेक्ट हो रहा है, जो लोग अफेक्ट हो रहे हैं इस चीज़ से, जिन लोगों को डिस्प्लेसमेंट के थ्रू गुजरना पड़ेगा, उन लोगों के व्यूज़ तो लेना ही चाहिए. प्लस because they will be concerned about, because people will be concerned about their own life and livelihood. But even besides that, the advice should be taken from experts in that matter, experts in, let's say, mining, or experts in other procedures that's happening within this entire example. And from economists, even they can assess कि हाँ क्या चीज़ इकोनॉमी के लिए लॉन्ग टर्म में सही है और क्या गलत है. And from environmentalists who also have a huge role to play, because these are the environmentalists are the people who keep everything in check, who keep the harm that we're doing to our environment in check. So these people's advices should be taken, right? And then economic growth and socio-economic justice. Okay, so economic growth means what? Means you're doing certain things that helps in boosting the economy further. It helps in economic growth किससे होती है? Because when we're making an investment, when people are benefiting from it, when people have more money in their own pockets, when the common people have more income than what they used to have. So that is what economic growth is. And socio-economic justice means social and economic justice, because ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए कि हाँ किसी को फायदा हो रहा है तो किसी को उसके लिए नुकसान पहुंच रही है, किसी का नुकसान पहुंचा के हम अपना फायदा कर रहे हैं. इवन इकोनॉमिकली और सोशली ये किसी भी चीज में ये होना नहीं चाहिए. So that is, these things should be taken into account before any sort of decisions are made about what should be done and what shouldn't be done. So economic growth and socio-economic justice. And then the last thing is the role of government. अब गवर्नमेंट का रोल क्या होना चाहिए इसमें? ये जो एंटायर प्रोसीजर है कि हाँ गवर्नमेंट डिसीजंस लेती है और द गवर्नमेंट कंट्रोल्स द इकोनॉमी एंड टेक्स अ लॉट ऑफ डिसीजंस फॉर द इकोनॉमी. तो गवर्नमेंट का रोल क्या और कितना होना चाहिए, दैट इज ऑल्सो अ वेरी डिबेटेबल इशू. दैट इज ऑल्सो अ वेरी it's a very political issue, because there are some people who think कि हाँ गवर्नमेंट को इंटरवीन करना चाहिए बट गवर्नमेंट का ज़्यादा रोल नहीं होना चाहिए. देयर आर सम पीपल हु थिंक कि नहीं गवर्नमेंट को सारे डिसीजंस लेने चाहिए, एवरीथिंग शुड बी अंडर द कंट्रोल ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट एंड इट शुड बी अ स्टेट रन इकोनॉमी. देयर आर पीपल लाइक दीज. So लोगों के views and opinions about the role of the government are very different, and these are very debatable issues. But anyway, there is an issue about there is no right answer for this question, but there is an issue, a debate over how much the government should matter when it comes to the economy, how much decision making power should be given in the hands of the government. So these are political contestations that we have, which result from this example that we have studied here. This example actually helps us reach broader questions of these sort. So our chapter starts with this prime example, this case study, and we'll further look into ideas of development.